What would the world be like without abortion? Let us imagine, for a moment, a world in which abortion does not exist. A world in which human life, from the very first second of its conception, is recognized as something sacred, inviolable, worthy of respect and protection. This world is not merely a utopia, but a possibility, a vision we can cultivate, one that would lead us to a higher level of humanity, morality, and compassion. What, then, would it mean to live in a society without abortions? The first seed of life. From the moment of conception, a new life begins to form, with its own DNA, its own patterns of growth, its own possibilities. The existence of a human being does not begin at some arbitrary moment, but rather at the instant the egg is fertilized. At that point, it already contains within itself the entirety of its potential, its genetic traits, its possibilities of being unique, of growing, of interacting with the world. To imagine a world without abortions is to imagine a society that recognizes that potential from the very beginning and chooses to nurture, protect, and give space to each of these lives so that they may fully develop. In such a world, the value of human life is absolute. The belief that every human being, in their uniqueness, has a singular and essential role to fulfill is fundamental. No matter the circumstances in which they come into the world, the dignity of human life is not conditioned by circumstance, but by its very essence. Love, commitment, and responsibility. The elimination of abortion would not mean the absence of challenges, but rather a profound and immense commitment to care and love. Families who choose to bring a life into the world, even under the most difficult circumstances, would be joining together in a promise to devote themselves to that life with all their strength. In a world without abortions, we would have more resources to support these families, from networks of emotional support to more efficient and inclusive health and education systems. The beauty of this is that each life, even in its most fragile beginning, would be surrounded by a network of compassion, support, and care. Society as a whole, far from condemning or ignoring difficulties, would unite to help create an environment in which every child could flourish. This would give rise to a more supportive society, one more concerned with the well-being of others. The act of welcoming human life, rather than eliminating it, would transform human relationships into something deeper, more honorable. The infinite potential of every life. Let us consider the extraordinary complexity of the human being, the vast ocean of possibilities that each person carries within themselves. What would we lose by discarding a life, by extinguishing the chance for a person to live their experiences, pursue their dreams, and contribute in a unique way to the world? Every human being carries a flame, an immeasurable potential for creativity, innovation, love, and compassion. A world without abortions would be a world in which that potential would be fully respected and nurtured. Every life has the power to transform, to contribute something that we might never have imagined. By respecting and protecting life from its origin, we would be creating the conditions for humanity as a whole to grow in virtue, in wisdom, and in beauty. Human life is a gift, and by honoring that gift, society becomes richer, more diverse, and more profoundly connected. The nature of love and freedom. As someone who cares deeply about love, freedom, and nature, I believe that love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love is not limited to those who are already alive. It extends to all forms of life, including those yet to be born. Love cannot be fragmented or conditioned. It is whole, inclusive, unconditional. In this world without abortions, we would witness true freedom, the freedom to live, to grow, to be who one is. Each life would have the freedom to develop fully, without being interrupted or diminished before it even begins. Society, in turn, would exercise a broader, deeper freedom by embracing every form of life and ensuring that the freedom of others is not restricted, but rather protected. Furthermore, a society that respects human life from its conception also respects nature. It recognizes that human life is not separate from the rest of the ecosystem, but is an integral part of it. Thus, by honoring each human life, Such a society would also cultivate a more harmonious and respectful relationship with the environment and with all forms of life that share the planet with us. Profound social transformation. The absence of abortion would entail a profound transformation in the social structure, in values, attitudes, and behaviors. A world without abortions would be a world in which empathy and compassion permeate everyday actions. Society would become more oriented toward care, toward understanding the needs of others, and toward building a support network that strengthens every individual, especially the most vulnerable. The act of giving life and caring for it without reservation, fully and wholly, would render human relationships more sincere, more truthful, and more humanized. Education would also acquire a new meaning. In a world where every life is respected from its very beginning, educational systems would be even more dedicated to fostering respect for human dignity, for others, and for the environment. We would no longer view the human being as something disposable or as a mere product, but as a unique being of immense value, deserving of protection and respect in every stage of existence. Imagine the vast ocean of possibilities that every human being carries within themselves. Each individual, from the very first breath of life, contains within them an infinity of unrealized potentials, unlived dreams, uninvented innovations, and uncreated works of art. Human potential is, by its very nature, limitless and therefore incalculably precious. When we speak of a world without abortions, we are speaking of a world where each of these potentials is preserved, and where what could become a unique being, with a valuable contribution to offer, is given the opportunity to flourish. The potential for inventions, discoveries, and innovations. How many of us have had an idea, an inspiration, or an intuition that, had it been pursued, might have changed the course of history? And what if I told you that the genius behind an invention capable of revolutionizing human life might still be in the mother's womb, waiting to be brought into the world? What if the next great invention that would make life easier, healthier, or more sustainable were lost forever due to the loss of a life before birth? In a world without abortions, what might have been lost in terms of scientific discoveries and technological innovations? Let us think for a moment of figures such as Marie Curie, Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, or Alan Turing, great minds who changed the way we understand the universe. Now imagine an uninterrupted line of brilliant minds that never had the chance to exist, that never had the chance to manifest in the world, simply because their lives were ended before they were even born. What incredible ideas might have been brought into existence if those lives had been preserved? Perhaps a cure for cancer, a solution to world hunger, or a technology capable of resolving the environmental crisis. Each of these lives, bearing an innate gift for creation, might have generated something extraordinary. The humanities and cultural impact. In the arts, humanity would be a richer, more complex, and more inspiring tapestry. Poets, musicians, visual artists, filmmakers, writers, all with the power to touch us deeply, to transform our vision of the world. How many masters of art, literature, and music might have emerged from among those whose lives were never given the chance to flourish? How many of us have found solace, inspiration, and motivation in a song, a book, or a painting? What would the world be like if these creative souls had been cut down before their time? The great beauty of the arts lies in their ability to transcend time and space. They move people in ways that words alone never could. Imagine, then, a society in which all forms of art are cultivated without limits, where every voice, every perspective, every experience can be shared without barriers. A world in which every life that comes into being contributes uniquely to the cultural mosaic of humanity. The potential in sports and entertainment. Sports, too, are fertile ground for the flourishing of human talent. The simple act of watching world-class athletes, such as Usain Bolt, Michael Jordan, or Simone Biles, is a celebration of what is possible when human potential is cultivated and respected. Imagine a world in which millions of great athletes never had the chance to be born or to develop their talent. How many sports heroes might have emerged among us, inspiring generations to surpass themselves? How many Olympic champions could have been forged through effort, perseverance, and passion, yet whose lives were cut short before they even began? Sports are just one manifestation of what humans can achieve when the freedom to express oneself is fully realized. And this is only a small glimpse of what could be. Every life not lived represents a universe of skills and talents lost. The world would be more joyful, more dynamic, and more empathetic if these lives were preserved. A world of progress. Now imagine, in a visionary and profoundly optimistic way, a world where each of these lives had been protected. The number of people who would have been born, along with their respective contributions to science, art, culture, politics, health, and even in yet undiscovered fields, would have been immeasurable. Across generations, these creative, innovative, and passionate souls would have given rise to a universe of constant progress, where humanity would have advanced at an exponential rate in discoveries, inventions, art, and wisdom. If we look at the numbers approximately, the current world population is around 8 billion people. However, if we consider a world without abortions, where every life had been preserved, the number of human beings today could be significantly higher. For example, considering that millions of lives are ended every year, the global population might be closer to 12 billion or perhaps even more. This would not merely represent a numerical increase, but an expansion of possibilities, contributions, and human talent. The most welcoming and advanced universe. And what would become of these new generations and their future generations? These lives would not be merely another number in a statistic. They would be the forces driving humanity to higher levels, to greater understanding, compassion, and technology. Imagine a world where public health and medical advancements were 100 years ahead, where previously incurable diseases had been eradicated by these brilliant minds. Imagine a world where the arts were more accessible, more profound, and more moving. Where environmental problems had largely been solved by these future generations of scientists and activists. The world would be a richer, more connected, and more sustainable place. The absence of divisions and the disregard for human life would have created a culture of cooperation and peace, where people from different backgrounds and perspectives would unite in a common effort to build a brighter and fairer future for all. Nature, too, would be more respected, as the bond between humanity and the environment would have been cultivated by generations that never abandoned the principle of preservation. The power of every life. Thus, the vision of a world without abortions is the vision of a world where humanity, with all its immense creative and transformative potential, would have more opportunities to flourish. Every human life is not merely a possible contribution, but a miracle of infinite possibilities. When we preserve life, we are not only protecting a person, but we are ensuring that all future advancements, discoveries, and innovations that could improve life for everyone can take place. Our world would be more welcoming, more advanced, more prosperous, because every life that is born, without exception, has the capacity to transform the world around it. And what could be more noble, more sublime, and more human than allowing each soul the opportunity to manifest, to create, to innovate, and to contribute its unique vision for the good of all? This is the legacy of a world that respects and preserves life from its very beginning, a world that is brighter, wiser, and infinitely more beautiful. Conclusion. In a world without abortions, every life would be a manifestation of limitless human potential. Preserving life from conception to its natural end would signify the acknowledgement that every human being possesses the inalienable right to exist, to experience, to grow, and to contribute the best of themselves. Such a world would reflect the very best of who we are, our love, our capacity to care, and our kindness. It would not only protect lives in the womb, but also create a stronger, more resilient, and fairer society for all, where respect for life serves as the foundation of everything. Protecting every human life is not merely a moral choice, it is an expression of the deepest respect for human dignity and potential. Every life, no matter how small or vulnerable, is a miracle. And this miracle, the miracle of life, is something we must defend with all our strength and all our souls. Let us build together a world where life is respected and preserved, from the maternal womb to the final breath. A world where love and kindness guide our actions, and where every human life is celebrated, not merely as a possibility, but as a precious gift to all of humanity.